Welcome back to another episode of the Salt and Air Podcast, the Westworld Edition. We're going to be discussing the Westworld season finale. I forgot the name of the episode, Kadish. What is it?
It is Crisis Theory.
Crisis Theory. Ooh, that's a cool name.
It's episode 8 of season 3.
Yep. Go ahead. What's up, Matt?
I'm just going to go away. Okay. And you guys can do the episode. And then after the credits roll at the end, we'll come in and talk about the really good stuff. Like what happened on this episode this time. So
what happened in the episode that was really good?
Matt, you're going to stay where you are.
Tell me you liked this episode.
Did you like this episode? Oh, okay. I was going to say.
I liked it after the credits were done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's when it got good.
Yeah.
It's all the behind the scenes stuff.
The last 2 minutes.
Yeah.
No, not behind the scenes
No,
stuff. The last 2 minutes of the show after the credits.
The William.
The after credit scene.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not
William
bury the
and
lead,
Bernard.
though.
Yeah, well, let's have Kadish. Why don't you set the table for us, Kadish? What happened in this episode, and then we'll discuss our feelings
So
about
this is the climax of season 3, and basically this is where we get to see Dolores's master plan finally play out, and we get to see Caleb's journey come to an end, and the fallout and ramifications of what they did, and we get to see Bernard make a big decision, and we get to see the downfall of Serac, and it's basically every storyline that was set up this season gets paid off in this episode, and I thought it was fantastic. I know I'm the only one.
I'm still confused. I still don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I understood, like everything did get paid off, but I just was like, meh. Like it just didn't do it. It just didn't do it for me. I don't know. Like this ending just felt.
Everything was tied up a little too neatly for me.
So the bulk of this episode happens in L.A. against the riots for the data leak that Dolores kind of did, and she's trying to get Caleb to Rehoboam in order to finally upload the strategy that they got from Solomon to basically take Rehoboam offline and leave humanity to their own devices so that people can finally be free. And the bulk of the episode is the journey that they're taking from, where Caleb basically saves Dolores from last episode, gets her a new body, and they're trying to get to Insight, which is the name of the company that created Rehoboam, and it's Serac's company. They're trying to get to Insight in order to take down Rehoboam, and it's almost like a Apocalypse Now, Heart of Darkness type journey where they're going through all these riots and stuff like that, and they're running into different types of enemies and things on their way there. And it all leads up to the ultimate climax where they finally face off with Serac, and Dolores kind of sacrifices herself for the sake of her plan. And it's all very tragic, but it's also I thought it was captivating personally. I love this episode, and I felt like it was a very appropriate ending to all the storylines that were set up in this season.
That part was very poetic. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Her being like, see, I'm kind of with Vader on this one. I was a little confused because she's hooked up to Rehoboam, and Rehoboam is basically going through her memories in search of the key to the Never Never Land that the rest of them are at, right? Mm-hmm. But they can't find it because it's not there. It
was revealed that she had actually put that in Bernard's core.
Okay.
So Bernard had the key to basically the forge.
Which answers the question, why did she need Bernard this whole season?
The Valley Beyond. That's what it is. Beyond. It's not the forge, it's the Valley Beyond. Yeah. So I did...
Sublime, is that what they called it?
Some of them, yeah. It's the Sublime, Valley Beyond. There's a bunch of different names depending on who you're talking to in the show. Which host, yeah. But I don't know.
Clementine calls it this.
I was
Esther calls it that.
I don't know. I can't exactly nail down what it was about this episode, but I was watching it and I'm just like, oh, okay, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Kind of. I was a little underwhelmed. I was expecting more, I think. I was expecting more fireworks, and it was a very muted finale where it was like, it makes sense that it happened, but this is kind of I don't know.
I was really appreciative of that because the natural instinct for Hollywood would have been to go big with this.
Yeah.
And I like that it became more of an emotional payoff than a big kind of final showdown payoff, because basically, you have Dolores, and there's a moment in here where Maeve kind of enters Dolores's mind, Dolores finally lets her in. And she sees this last memory of Dolores's where Dolores chooses to see the beauty in all things as opposed to all the terrible stuff. Because this entire time, one of our big criticisms of the season was we don't know who to root for because they all seem like bad guys.
Yeah.
But this final episode kind of revealed Dolores as an actual good guy because, as opposed to like wanting to take her revenge out on humanity, her ultimate goal was actually to liberate them and allow them to have choice in their ultimate fate. And Caleb's whole thing, like all this time he thought Dolores chose him because of his capacity for violence. And when Maeve reveals to him, it's like, it wasn't because of your capacity for violence, it was for your capacity to choose. Mm-hmm. And that kind of like just floors him because like he realizes that he's more than just, a tool to be used by other people. Like he has some agency in how, his life shapes up. Yeah. And it's a really powerful message. And so he decides to give that choice that Dolores gave him to all of humanity by, destroying Rehoboam, even though he knows that all the projections say that humanity is going to like basically destroy itself. And he's like, well, if we destroy ourselves, that will be our choice. And so the end of this, not only does it have like a really kind of good, powerful message about, fate versus destiny and free will, but it also kind of ties into the end of season 2, where the end of season 2 was William kind of going back to the Forge, and he's a host William, and they're trying to get him to, basically re-embody the original William, and it's a undetermined time, like really far into the future, and they kind of like didn't really explore that this season until the very end here, where the final shot is Bernard, who entered the Sublime early on, and he's been in that hotel room for God knows how long.
Yeah, that was one of my questions. Like, how long has he been there?
Like he's covered in dust, and you get the sense that there is this post-apocalyptic future where humanity has destroyed itself, and Bernard wakes back up at the end. But you also have to wonder, is that actually Bernard who's come back in the host body of Bernard? So like someone from the Sublime came back, and it's at an undetermined point in the future, post-apocalypse, and you're wondering what's happened and what role is he going to play in what's to come.
Rehoboam had kind of speculated how long it would be before humanity basically destroyed itself, and it was like 23 years or something like that in the future. Like if you go through with this course of action, they were talking to Caleb, trying to convince Caleb not to do what he was about to do. It's like if you do this within it was on that little computer screen that said like within 5 years this is going to happen, within 10 years this is going to happen, and then complete annihilation within 23 years. So if that's what happened, did they really just hint that Dolores destroyed humanity?
Well, it wasn't Dolores who destroyed humanity.
She was the one who set everything in motion.
Humanity that destroyed humanity.
Caleb gave humans a choice.
Yeah.
Humans chose whatever path.
But then that justifies what Sirach's whole point was. Like, no, these people need to be controlled.
They kind of made the point that it wasn't so much that what Sirach was doing was preventing this from happening. He was just delaying the inevitable. And so the notion here was that you have to basically burn things down before you can build them back up again. And humanity had to reach its ultimate end in order to, be reborn. But the question is that rebirth going to happen through the Sublime and, host bodies, or is it going to be like organic humanity? Like there's a lot of questions still left to be answered here. But the long and short of this is that it was basically a message that humanity, whether we thrive or we destroy ourselves, it's our choice to do that as opposed to being controlled.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay. I honestly was a little bummed out too, because I think I mentioned in the last podcast, maybe even the one before that I was really looking forward to seeing what William would do once he got back on his feet, and he's like, he's a wild card, right? He didn't do anything. I'm like, come on, man. He was still in his
security guard.
Okay. Like I was like so amped up to see what he was going to do, and to kind of have him throw a wrench in Dolores and Sirach's plan and just be like that one thing that just.
Well, what's interesting? So like in the final credits scene that, Vader kind of pointed to.
What? You want to tell us what happened, since it's the only part that you liked?
Nah, you don't care.
No, go ahead.
Well, so William shows up at one of the Delos facilities where he thinks that they're, building host machines to, take over humanity.
Yeah. Which they kind of are.
And he loses his cool, like, immediately.
Yeah. Like he is not, like, he hasn't thought this out very well. But he goes in there, guns blazing, and he's going to try to kill Halloris, who's there kind of running things. And then like they show that they've recreated him as the Man in Black.
Yeah.
And he's going to be kind of the one to lead their war against humanity. And so like he basically gets killed by himself, by the darkest version of himself. And I think that the end of season 2 actually alludes to the fact that whoever is playing the role of his daughter in that scenario, they're trying to get the original version of William back because they need him in order to fight against this Man in Black version that Halloris created.
Oh, shit. He just broke you.
That's it. I'm done.
I remember because that was one of my favorite parts of season 2 was like they're so far in the future and they're in this post-apocalyptic and he's down there like in therapy or something, like he's being held captive. And
I hate this show.
oh, that's such a wacky tie back and like a little like, why would they put that in season 2?
Yeah.
Like that was so confusing as to what they have. Yeah,
they've thought this so far in advance.
Dang.
And this is how you subvert expectations correctly.
Dang.
I don't like my
D&D.
expectations.
This is such
Just give me a show I can watch and turn it off and go, okay, that was cool.
But
And
It's
be
called
done.
Rick and Morty.
you know what? This is going to be
That's actually good.
this is going to be one of those shows where when all the seasons are done, when the show's over, you can sit down and watch it beginning to end, and it's going to be amazing because it's going to tie together so flawlessly.
Oh man,
I'm never watching any of these episodes again.
that's fine. We'll do the Westworld. How many seasons did they get slated for?
6. I think they did. I
Six?
think they said 6.
Okay.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Wow. Man.
Halfway.
This is the midway point
Yeah.
of the story.
Good Lord, man.
Halfway there.
Maybe next season will only be like 5 episodes.
This is crazy. Yeah, I didn't even.
And also the reveal that Sirach wasn't the avatar for Rehoboam, but he was like his puppet. He was
Yeah.
like he willingly gave his free will up and just does whatever Rehoboam tells him to and says whatever Rehoboam
Yeah.
tells him
So you
to.
kind of got that, Vader.
Yeah, you got that theory correct. I was
Sort of.
I was watching it and I was like, Vader was right the whole time.
I've been saying that
Gotta win.
since
I don't remember
episode
you
2.
saying that at all.
Go back and listen to our podcast.
I'm gonna have to.
Vader have
Will you
one
let me
thing.
have one thing?
Oh my god.
Let me have something. Okay.
Everything has to be about Kadish.
I was right.
Yeah. Oh, back
just
in
saying, I
back in Hollywood, he called it.
I don't even know why I
14
bother
years
talking.
ago.
None of you guys listen to me.
It'd be a really short show if you didn't talk.
No, you just blew me away with that. I did not honestly plug those two threads together, and you just doing that, I'm like, that's what that means in the end. It says season 2, and it's going to tie. It's not even a thing that happened in season 3. It's something that's going to happen in season 4, but it's
Yeah.
hinted at.
Yeah.
Holy cow,
I
dude!
loved the end credit, the end scene after credit scene, whatever.
Yeah.
However you say it. I loved that with William. I think I called him Bill in Black or something.
Back in black.
Yeah,
Back
Bill
in
in Black. But season-wise, I loved this season. Every single episode, I was like, oh my God, that was so good. That being said, this episode was the only episode that I did not feel that way about. I felt like everything was just tied up in a nice little bow, and it was just like, this is the end. That's all you get.
And it's funny because that's what I said last podcast, that's what I wanted. Like, I want this season to end, like, nice capped off ending with a couple of threads to go forward. And that's what I got. And I'm like, man.
Yeah,
Well, you know what's interesting here is that so the entire season, Dolores has been pitted against Maeve. Maeve has been kind of like her direct antagonist. And in this show, we get their final showdown. But Maeve kind of sees Dolores' point of view, and she sees what she's trying to do, and she's won over to Dolores' side. And so Maeve is directly responsible for the downfall of Sirach and for Caleb fulfilling, the role that Dolores wanted him to fulfill. But the entire season, you kind of set up, okay, Maeve and Dolores are, foils for one another. They're the ones who are going to be at conflict. And that's resolved at the end of this episode. But then you have the setup for Halloris, Charlotte Hale's version of Dolores, who becomes a bad guy. She becomes the villain that we always thought Dolores Prime was.
Yeah.
And so then you have to ask yourself,
which becomes so much more of a diabolical version because she's directly from Dolores.
But now they set the groundwork so that Maeve is now going to be Halloris' direct antagonist. So like it's basically Maeve and Dolores are always going to be in conflict with one another, but now Maeve has switched to Dolores' prime point of view, and Dolores is the one that she's going to be fighting against because Dolores is the one who wants to exterminate humanity. And it's going to be interesting to see how Caleb and Maeve fight against Dolores and the Man in Black.
Yeah.
In the next season.
I loved that moment when Maeve and Dolores were facing off, and Maeve was like, you just want to replace this world with versions of yourself. And she was like, you're all versions of me.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a good reveal.
I
really
loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's like,
she's
I was
like,
the only
the first one that worked.
Yeah.
So all the Doloreses for Evan and Rachel Wood, are they dead?
No.
So she'll be back. I'm really kind of
maybe.
confused.
I think I honestly think maybe they might take one season where she's not back and then
They
bring her
didn't
back.
take her pearl. They just kind of deleted
They
it.
deleted her.
Well,
whole,
they deleted Dolores Prime, but the Charlotte Hale version of Dolores is still out there. That Riot Guard guy who showed up earlier in the episode, who
Yeah.
was Dolores in that guy's skin,
Yeah.
he's still out there. They didn't show back up. I was expecting them to kind of help Caleb get to where he was going during the riots.
She left the park with 5 pearls, right? At
Yeah.
the end of season 2.
one was Bernard, and
was
the other
Bernard.
4 were her.
Hale.
Who was the bodyguard guy for
The Japanese guy.
the Japanese guy? He's dead though.
Zuka.
It was Hale Musashi,
Musashi, whatever his name is.
the Irish bodyguard guy, and
Who else?
the Riot Guard guy.
Okay.
Okay.
And who's dead? Musachi's dead, right?
Yeah.
Well, Musashi, his body died, but his pearl's still intact. They,
Do we-
they just took his head off. So
they have a version of Dolores then?
yes, they have a version of Dolores' pearl. So that could be the one that Maeve resurrects at some point or something.
Oh yeah.
But the Riot Guard guy is still out there kicking around, and Dolores is still alive and kicking. So, and they could probably make a copy of one of those pearls and put Dolores back in her own body.
So I'd have to look into. We don't need to get into it right now, but I'm going to pose a question to you guys. Like, what fraction of the memories do these copies have that Dolores Prime had? Do they have all her memories from the park?
Since their last
yeah,
upload.
Yeah, I think it's all from the park.
So
onward.
Dolores can't die then. Like they can destroy Prime, but they have a backup, right? So
Well, that version of Dolores is dead. Like
It's like
she's
when you
been
back
wiped
up
out.
your iPhone.
yeah, but there's an actual carbon copy of her.
The whole point of Dolores was kind of showcase that even though they're all the same character, their experiences shape them in different ways, so they become different characters.
They're different perspectives of the
Yeah,
same
they grow and evolve. So that's my other question too: is what exactly was Dolores's motivation to turn full bad guy? Because she had a connection with her family, who was then killed by Sirach. Why would the death of that family by the hands of Sirach turn her against Dolores Prime?
I think losing her family kind of helped her lose her moral center. But on top of that, she was resentful that she was going to be sacrificed by Dolores Prime for her plan. And so she was like, well, I'm not the type of person who's the sacrificial lamb. I'm not willing to die for this cause. I want to be the master of my own destiny. And so she was resentful of Dolores Prime's ultimate motivation.
Yeah.
And that's why she turned against her.
Okay. All right. It seems to me that seems like a little bit of a stretch for her to go like full villain that quickly.
A bit for me too.
Well, they also kind of set up the fact that because she's in Charlotte Hale's body and the ghost of Charlotte Hale is kind of like, tormenting her, that Charlotte Hale is the reason for her corruption.
Okay.
And it's because Charlotte Hale was always a villain that this version of Dolores being in Charlotte Hale's body became a villain.
Okay. That's interesting because it's just a synthetic body. You wouldn't think that would have any kind of physical or emotional ties.
She took over Charlotte Hale's life.
Yeah, from the beginning, she was struggling with the emotions.
Yeah, I remember
of
she
Charlotte
was
Hale.
saying stuff like, I feel like there's somebody else pulling at me. I'm just curious as to where that would come
And
from.
remember when she said, like, why do we have to have these emotions? That's when she was struggling and she was like cutting herself and she was struggling with the dynamic between like herself as Dolores and herself as Hale. Like, because she was in Hale's body, she embodied Hale's motives also. So it was just she was torn all the time. Stop shaking your head.
You have such a
Vader.
disgusted look on your face, Vader. Are you just like, this show's way too over the top, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're done with it.
It's like I don't see how
Are you glad it's over?
Sticking a floppy drive from one computer to another isn't gonna,
That's what I'm saying.
Isn't going to change what's on the floppy drive.
That's what I'm saying.
Just another computer.
Like, why is Halloris so much different than...
Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. Because
she had different experiences.
Not up until that point. That's what
they don't have Hale's experiences. They have Dolores's experiences.
No, but she had Hale's memories too. Like
How?
Think about when they put Bernard into Arnold. He had the memories of his dead son and his dead wife. He's a robot, but they made him.
They modeled.
Bernard.
They made a fresh body of Hale and stuck in Dolores's Pearl.
But Bernard,
there's nothing of Hale left there
but
except for what she looks like.
The minute she came online as Hale, she diverged from the other Doloreses because she was living Charlotte Hale's life. She had connections with her family. She had responsibilities at her job.
I don't think it was just that.
Well, it might not have been, but that was a big part as to why the divergence happened.
All right, Jude, what do you think it was?
So I think it had more to do with the fact that she was in Hale's body.
But it's not her body. It's just a synthetic version of it.
But it was.
No, it's not. It's just.
Don't you know?
No, I'm trying, but I'm like, I'm with Vader on this.
This also gets into what part the soul has to play here, because this has been a big kind of meta issue in the show, is like what constitutes consciousness, but what constitutes life, what constitutes a soul.
They're machines. They don't have a soul.
Well, you can say
even their little heaven where they're all trying to get to is just a bunch of bullshit ones and zeros on a diskette somewhere.
but Charlotte Hale wasn't a robot, so you could say like if she's a vengeful spirit and she's torturing Halloris's mind with guilt and insecurities and stuff like that. Like these are all like really metaphysical themes that this show explores.
And that's exactly probably why I hate this show, because it makes no fucking sense to me.
Well, not everything has to make sense.
I'm kind of on Vader's side though. Like there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this show that is like not spoken. It's just supposed to be like a gut feeling that the audience gets. It's not science. It's definitely not science. No, because like if you look at it, like they 3D printed a body and they put a Dolores copy's mind inside of it, and then all of a sudden it takes on the persona of Charlotte Hale with none of the experiences of actual Charlotte Hale until the point where she has to kind of just like go undercover as her. And that's only for a very short period of time. It wasn't like in Hale's body for years and years and years, growing attached to these families. She showed up like a couple.
She also had Hale's memories.
When did they get Hale's memories from
the park?
Yeah, she needed them in order to duplicate Hale in real life. She needed Hale's memories.
So what you're saying is that Delos took the information from Hale and Dolores got a hold of it and put it in with her copy.
When Dolores was in the forge, and she was looking through all that data.
Yeah.
She took Hale's data with her.
Oh, okay.
And put it into a version of herself that was going to be in Hale's body.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't just a Dolores Pearl in a Hale body. It was a Dolores Pearl with Hale's memories in a Hale body.
When did that happen? Do you guys? Is there an episode where they just describe that? No.
No. But she had all of her interactions ever since she became Hale. Was like she saw her ex-husband. She was like, "Oh, hello," whatever his name was, and she knew everyone.
Okay.
And she had to have all of Hale's memories from the park that they stored up.
And they did make it clear that when Dolores was in the forge, like everyone that she interacted with in the real world were people that she got information from that source. So like, Charlotte Hale, William, all these guys, she took that information with her when she left the park.
Okay. That makes more, I'm a little bit on board now. I get it.
Matt,
do you get
care.
it? No, you don't care. Okay.
Shaking
all right.
That being said, I will tell you where they lost me in this episode.
Go ahead.
All right. So when Caleb is walking through like the looting and the chaos and all of that, and his bodyguards are all like, "Hello, sir, we're here to escort you."
Felt very Fight Club.
Yeah. And we see the sentry off in the distance.
The big robot?
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, shit." And that was it.
No, it dropped some smoke bombs in the crowd.
That's it. And then Caleb was like, I have to get to Insight. And his bodyguard was like, that's impossible, bro. And then he just hops on a police
Yeah, that was a little weird, right?
helipad, heliplane,
Drone.
whatever, just unobstructed. And he's like, has like a time for a whole conversation with his friend. Is just like, go help him.
How did
He needs you. And he just gets on. And like even the robot in the plane isn't just like, bro,
Who are you?
You're not a police officer. It's just like, take me to Insight. And he's like, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to take you right to Insight. And he goes, just goes to Insight. And I was just like, weak.
Yeah. That was a
the police car was a Johnny Cab.
yeah. It was a bit
Yeah.
convenient, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, which for security reasons, like they need more in their police
I'm with you.
Johnny Cabs. Thank you.
Fist bump.
Thank you.
I did
that
like
was
that.
weak.
I did like that moment where Caleb gets this aimbot machine gun.
Oh, yeah.
The self-aiming machine gun, and he gets the drop on the last surviving security guard, and he's like, "Give me your key card, and I'll let you go." And the guy's like, "Bullshit."
Yeah,
and,
I like that.
And he was like, "Well, I could kill you now." He gives him the key card, and he actually lets him go.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
Oh, and also I hated the part where Caleb comes up to
His friend.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm going to go to Insight and I'm going to blow this whole thing up. And he just takes that drive out of his pocket and just kind of waves it around at her in the middle of all of this chaos. Like that was unnecessary. And I hated that moment. And I know that's nitpicky, but I was just like, put it in your pocket.
Well, the ironic
Protect
thing,
it. It's the one copy of it.
Yeah.
Put it away. You don't need to wave it around. Just put it away.
The ironic thing is they never even used it.
No, he tried to and stopped.
They didn't need it.
Well, the strategy was, Dolores had it in her brain, and so as Rehoboam was accessing her memories, it was uploading that strategy to it, and they just needed Caleb there to activate the strategy.
Yeah.
So the actual drive that Caleb had was inconsequential.
He was a red herring.
So Dolores was a Trojan horse
Yes.
for that computer program.
Yeah.
Well, like it was taking information from her, but unbeknownst to everybody around, it was also like uploading this virus or whatever.
And I think that's why she was so shocked at Dolores' reaction, is because she was, from the beginning, she knew that she was going to have to sacrifice herself to Rehoboam, and all the other versions of her were okay with sacrificing themselves to, achieve this ultimate goal. And when she realized how Dolores was resentful of the fact that, she was supposed to die, like she was just surprised by it.
All right. Any final thoughts on the
several.
season finale? Go ahead. What do you got?
Don't try to shut me down, sir.
I might have to just let you guys do this.
I felt like Caleb taking out that security guard, Sebastian, that was also weak. He took him out way too easily. Am I alone here?
Was he a security guard? I thought he was just
He's
Sirach's
just an
right-hand guy.
assassin, whatever he was.
I
He was
honestly
like
don't
a
even remember
henchman.
that part.
He's the guy with the
Oh, the choke thing. Okay.
He was the guy Caleb
throat.
suplexed and broke his neck.
yeah. What's
Oh, that was a
That
cop
was
out.
weak. Yeah, he just like somersaulted
just
with
mi-
him, and
he-
it was like,
He mil-
his neck broke after the fact.
He millionaire babied
His
it.
neck wasn't even on the stair.
He hit really hard.
Yeah, he fell.
It's a wrestling move.
He fell on his noggin. It's a wrestling move.
He had to move the story along.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. They did kind of rush this a little bit.
And I wanted to know, in Caleb's flashback, or maybe it was Dolores' flashback, I don't know, when he liberated all of these ladies and he made the choice not to like rape all of those girls. Where and when was this?
Okay, so that takes place in the park, long before it became like a place for rich people to go
long
and,
before season
and
one.
screw off. Long before season one, when Dolores was still like the metal body robot.
Okay, but if Dolores has been in the park for like
30
30
years.
odd years,
Oh, it
how
could have
fucking
been.
old was Caleb?
He was in his teens.
I guess, yeah.
Like he was there as an infantryman
So
training.
18 maybe, and then he's now 40,
35.
35. I don't know. There's a little, yeah. You got that. There's a little bit of a stretch on that, yeah, because it was supposed to take
They put Dolores'
place.
hair in a ponytail to show that she was younger. But
Yeah.
Caleb, they were just like, stick a helmet on him.
He was out
But
there
I-
going. He was out there going. You're gonna buy my crack, bitch. I'm gonna shoot you.
I really did
Vader
like.
had stopped watching at this point. He doesn't even know what we're talking about at this
Oh
point.
no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I really did like that scene though, because you have Caleb's kind of
Well, that was
squad
pivotal
there.
for the whole episode.
Yeah, you had Caleb's squad there, and they were kind of like, hey, these aren't real people. We
Yeah.
could have some fun right now.
Yeah.
And Caleb basically steps in and does something that's like morally upright.
I mean, it pretty much answered a question for the whole season of why did Dolores
Yeah,
choose him?
exactly. Yep. Here's the payoff for like
Yeah.
everybody's
It
always
wasn't-
asking, like, what is it about this guy? There's something about him that
Yeah.
makes Dolores pick.
And I thought it was nice. It was a nice touch that it wasn't just what she knew about him. It was her personal experience of having seen his choice.
And it also goes towards the, earlier in the season, because at the beginning of this episode, when Caleb kind of confronts her about her manipulation of him, she's like, why did you save me in that tunnel? It's like, did you see this body and want something? And he was like, no. And she's like, don't assume things about me and I won't assume things about you.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like one of those things where he realized, there's more to this than just being manipulated.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
And
he got a little mad at her for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought her moment with Maeve when she revealed to Maeve, I'm not trying to annihilate humans, and she had that whole there's chaos, yeah, there's disarray, but I choose to see the beauty. That was a nice full circle moment for her. And I don't know, I don't know what is in store for next season, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Dolores.
Yeah, that's what I was
next
going to say. I think they
season,
might take
because
a
I feel like her character has come full circle.
yeah, they might take a break from Dolores for one season.
Next season's about Bernard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bernard and
Is it
the
though?
Yeah.
Man in Black.
First of all, he needs dusted. He's covered in some kind of yellow dust.
See, my theory for season 4 is that it's going to be about the war between the hosts and the humans because of, Dolores's, we got that reveal of all the manufacturing bits, and the Man in Black is going to be leading it against Caleb and Maeve, is my theory. And then we're going to keep getting these hints of what happens in the far future until the final season, which is when all that stuff pays off, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was a little underwhelmed by this episode, but having talked to you guys about it and kind of put everything out on the table, I understand it a little bit better now, and I kind of.
Are you going to watch
Yeah.
Hack's Dogma's video and be like, this was the greatest episode ever?
maybe?
Probably.
I finally understand.
Because I texted him and I was like, "Hey man, what did you think of the finale?" He's like, "I'm a little mixed on it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, good. So I'm not the only one then."
I think if you put it in the perspective of an episode on its own, it was underwhelming. But if you put it in the perspective of the entire season, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But
I want to know what happens
yeah,
to
this
Stubbs.
season.
Yeah. What is he just sitting in the bathtub by himself?
Okay.
Drinking the bad alcohol.
I had another point about this. Bernard's been gone for a while, and he just gave him that little rinky-dink bottle of alcohol.
From the mini bar.
That's it.
It was a handful. It wasn't just
Yeah,
one.
there's a handful of them, but yeah, that's all.
Still,
That would be like
sure.
20 minutes.
That's an afternoon.
But you know what's funny is when he found
He's
Stubbs.
bleeding out.
When he found Stubbs at the beginning of the show, he had been shot and he was just chilling out in that cold storage
Yeah.
for God knows how long.
Yeah.
So my guess is he's probably still in that tub.
Stubbs has also come full circle this season.
'Cause he said that too,
He was
yeah.
bleeding out in the beginning.
All
and
Stubbs
bleeding
did
out
this
at the
season was
end.
get
At
his
least
ass
now,
kicked.
now he has an empty bottle of
That's because
airport alcohol.
That's because Westworld's woke, sir. Don't you know? Don't you watch enough YouTube?
That
I want to know, do you guys have any theories for season 4?
No, honestly. I mean, I'm looking
Mars.
forward to seeing Mars. I'm looking forward to seeing the connection from season 2.
did you like my Twitter about the apartments?
No, I didn't see it.
You
Oh,
Twitter?
you didn't?
No,
Oh, I saw
You
it.
tweeted?
I tweeted directly at you.
you did? What? I didn't even get it.
Do you know how to tweet?
She probably did it wrong.
I took a picture of the intro on the last episode of Rehoboam. And when we were watching it, I was like,
Oh,
I was
yes.
like, I know that this is Rehoboam, but to me, it looks like apartments
Oh,
on a space
that's right.
station. I
Yeah.
still say we're not on Earth.
I do remember that. I remember that now that you said it. Yeah, that's right.
On Earth, open your eyes.
Well, our theories about being in a simulation were all wrong, apparently.
Yeah, so far.
Seasons 1 through 3 were a simulation.
Yeah,
Dream.
I hope they don't do that. But anyway, all right, guys. We're going to cap it off right there. Thank you very much for listening to the Salty Nerd Podcast, exclusively about Westworld. I hope you guys enjoyed this season and our commentary on it. Make sure to go to saltynerd.com, check out all the rest of our content there, or Salty Nerd Video on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Jude, you want to say something? Go
I was
ahead.
just going to introduce myself because you didn't introduce me.
We didn't introduce anybody this episode, did we? Okay. Oh, God, I'm so bad at this. Signing out with our co-host. Thanks for joining me. Jude, where can they find you on the socials?
I am Jude Juju on Instagram and Twitter.
Matt Vader, where can they find you?
Matt Vader 74.
Right on. And Kadish, where can they find you?
At Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter, and kadishbooks.com on Amazon. And just to clarify, so when you're looking for Jude on there, it's at I am Jude Juju. It's not I am at Jude Juju. So I just want to make that clear in case you want to
Is that
find
what I
her.
said?
Yeah.
Well, you say I am Jude Juju, but people might think you're saying I am, comma, at Jude Juju.
No.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm clarifying.
Listen, if you can't find me based on what I said, then I don't want you to find me.
Okay.
Learn to code. Boomer. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week when we talk about a different show, I guess.
Yay!